Hey, what's going on, everyone? A very good afternoon. I hope you're all doing real well. Today, we've got a wonderful guest here in the run up to Supreme Championships next weekend. Not only a fighter, but also a coach. Justin Moore, what's going on over there, buddy?
How you doing? You okay?
Yeah, I'm doing well. So, you fought on the show a couple of times. You've also prepared fighters to fight on the show. Um, Curious what your role has been for this next event on February 19th.
Just really obviously we fought. I think we had three guys fight on the last show, the last event they had, and that went well. So we got I think Ryan won, and the other two guys they went the distance. Obviously, unfortunately, they didn't get the result, but the effort and obviously the commitment they showed obviously during their camps, their first fights as well, which they did really well. And then obviously, like anything, obviously it grows, and the teams just got bigger and obviously better as we've gone on. And on this show, we've got five guys fighting. And we've got one guy fighting K1 and the other four MMA. Sorry, three amateur MMA fights and one's fighting pro. So yeah, it's gone well,
Is
really
it
well.
like kind of a strange shift to go from being a competitor
Yeah,
to a coach to having to manage everything? I mean, we were talking just before we jumped on air here about diet. I mean,
yeah,
you must be WhatsApping guys late at night saying, "Hey, what's going on? Any pizza? Any
yeah.
takeaways?"
It is, and it's like to be fair, I thought it'd be easier, obviously, being doing the coaching role because like taking a step back. Because with my last fight, I found it was such a because obviously my last fight was on Cage Warriors, and also I've had fights on Bellator as well, and some quite big shows. And preparing for shows like that, you need to be in the gym sort of a couple of like 2 3 hours a day every day, putting the work in because the guys you're fighting, they're doing that. And obviously, when I'm a little bit older, I've got obviously the family, and I've got a newborn. I got married last year, and all of that, and obviously trying to run a business, and then trying to make sure your teammates are getting ready, they're doing everything properly as well. It was just so much, and obviously I lost my fight in Cage Warriors, and nothing, not taking anything away from my opponent Christian. He was as good as we knew he was. He was sort of one of the best sort of up and coming middleweights in the country, and obviously we didn't get the result. But it didn't help the camp. Do you know what I mean? It was such so much stress with family and work, and it's just and not being to get the hours I wanted to put in properly. So now trying to coach the lads now it's hard because sometimes I sort of look at some of the stuff they're doing and I mean everyone's different and I sort of look at them and think that if they're not putting the work in that I would have been putting in or some of the other guys are putting in, it's kind of hard to because I'm quite sort of upfront. I'll say it how it is. Like I'm sort of trying to learn not to be like that all the time because some guys don't take well to sort of constructive criticism. So it's trying to learn how to sort of judge that and juggle that a little bit. And not everyone's like me. Like I'd rather someone if I've been crap in the gym, I want to know where I went wrong and what I did wrong and just correct it next time because it'll play on my mind. Some guys you can't just go in like that because they take it quite bad and then they're quite hard to build back up. So it's trying to learn like that. So, but luckily, obviously, I've trained with so many people over the years. I've got good people like Jordan, Natalie, old training partners like Damo, and obviously some of the other coaches I've used and been with. I can sort of step on them and sort of give them a shout and tap them up for advice and help. And the good thing about some of the gyms down here, like a few years ago, it used to be able to sort of be a little bit against each other, almost like tribal sort of warfare. But now I think people are starting to learn now that we're better off. It's martial arts, so we're better off working together, like communicating and helping build everyone as a fighter than just being like against each other so much. So I think that's where we're starting to. That's where MMA I think is starting to grow and be a lot more successful in Bournemouth now, and trying to catch up with some of the biggest cities like London, obviously Wales, like places like that.
Is there anything like that you learned because coming from smaller shows, getting onto Cage Warriors, getting onto
Yeah,
Bellator, is there anything that you learned that you passed on to
yeah.
some of these fighters that may be starting their journey next weekend?
Yeah, definitely.
Because it is a bit of a balancing act, isn't it? You come up and you're struggling for
Yeah,
sponsors, you're struggling to make training and this,
yeah,
that, and the other. What if you kind of help these guys out with out of curiosity?
yeah. It is really hard, and obviously, and like just like you touched on then, expenses. It is expensive trying to train. Like you got to have your gym membership where you can go and do your cardio and your weights and your conditioning. So that's a gym membership. Then you've got your combat gym membership, like where you go and do your jiu-jitsu and your wrestling, your boxing, paying for that. Then you pay for your individual training, your one-to-ones, and then obviously your diet. Obviously, because it's a lot easier to eat unhealthy because it's cheap and do you know what I mean? Like takeaways and stuff like that are cheaper than trying to eat healthy is seems more expensive, which is why I mean some of the countries in the states they're in because it's easier to lead an unhealthy lifestyle. So trying to juggle that, so I'm trying to make sure the guys aren't, I mean, breaking their bank balance every time I'm trying to train. That's what a lot of the sessions I do. I do them as cheap as I can and try and help them out a little bit. And I'll do sessions at mine where I don't even charge the boys because I want them rather than like the money, and I'm not too interested in the money at the minute. I'd rather just try and grow the lads and get them to where they want to be first and where they're trying to be, rather than them have to stress and worry about money and
It's a
things like that.
stress, isn't it?
Because
It
obviously,
can be a real stressful balancing act, no?
it is massively, yeah, yeah. And I don't like them saying like, "Oh, why weren't you at this session?" Them saying they couldn't afford it. When they just ignore me and don't tell me that, then it's like, well, why weren't you there? That's why I'm trying to sort of get the balance so they can communicate and tell me this. So I can be like, look, it's just come, I'll cover the cost, or just come and train, or let me know that before. So I'm trying to sort of like grow my sort of communication skills with them to help them with that. But yeah, being on those big shows really did help. Really does help because obviously it's such a social media age and the photos, videos. So it's nice showing them what they can get to and where this sort of game can take you to. But it's about them acting professional now, so they can build up for that. So eventually, when they get to these big shows, they've done all the. I mean, they've done all this sort of stuff like the interviews and stuff like that. That's why the smaller shows you don't really get these interviews and the media stuff. So it's good they're doing it now. So when they get to the Cage Warriors or the Bellator, it's not just a shock to the system. And they don't get behind the mic and don't know what to say and swear or anything like that.
What is the you mentioned that kind of focus and that kind of homing in on actual performance day, right? Because a lot of people talk about,
Yeah,
all of the fight before the fight, whether it's making weight or managing diet
yeah,
or overcoming injuries and cardio and
yeah,
specialist training. When it comes down to that kind of 7 days before, where you as a coach are thinking, all right, now don't go out and do anything too crazy or what have you.
yeah, yeah,
What are the
yeah.
kind of things that you've kind of told these guys going into next weekend? This is how you want to spend your last 7 days.
Yeah, well, I mean, obviously, a couple of them they've had a couple of fights, and we've got Jamie, who's obviously been a pro for a few years. But obviously, the newer guys who don't really know, because it's mad. 'Cause obviously, I think when they watch so much social media and they've watched like the UFC on a Saturday night, a lot of them think they already know how it runs, how it all goes. But it's, I mean, just a weight cut. I mean, I don't think people see how hard that is for them. So they've all got a schedule to run to and to follow, and obviously we check in with them every day. And the plan obviously this week is everyone get within a certain weight of their obviously target weight, and then we'll go and sauna together and make sure everyone's sort of done it safely. But they get monitored every week, so we know sort of what everyone's weight is. So no one's doing too many drastic cuts or. And I mean, if they're involved in the fight game, they're fighting. They should have an idea of what they should be eating and drinking, anyways. You know what I mean, I don't want to sort of catch them at McDonald's or like some of the lads just went for some food just now, and I'm sort of like keeping an eye on what they're getting, so they come back with salads and not sort of like Subways. So, but I think if you're involved in the fight game, you should sort of have some sort of idea of how you're supposed to be sort of leading, what sort of lifestyle you're supposed to be having. But I'm sort of quite lucky. The guys are quite committed, and I haven't sort of got to tell them too much. So I don't want to be that coach who's just on their case all the time either. I want to be sort of their mate, but if they want to come to me and ask me something, they can feel they can as well.
Is there
You know what I mean?
anything because we as commentators we always get it wrong, right? People are always like on Reddit or
Yeah,
ShareDog or what have you. I can't believe he said that. Did he do his
yeah,
own research? If I'm to look out
yeah.
next weekend for some things or maybe characteristics or signature stuff from your
Yeah.
fighters, what would it be? What would be the inside take from your angle as a coach?
Um, I think with Jamie, obviously, be on the main card. I'm not sure where he is. He'll be sort of further on the main card because obviously he's a big guy. His power and his strength. I mean, he's a big dude and he's had some big wins, fought in some big shows like I have. He's been on KSW, Bellator a couple of times. Didn't really get the results on the shows that he was supposed to because he just didn't have the training around him. But we're trying to sort of look after him now, make sure he's got that training. And obviously we've got to build him, obviously build his career back up, obviously on the Supreme, and then look at those possible big shows sort of further down the line in a couple of years' time. But he's one to watch because he's a very, very powerful guy. And obviously, then we've got some of the newer guys like Ryan. This will be his third fight. Such a hard worker. He's in the gym every day. You tell him anything, he does it. I mean, and he's quite a success story as well because in 18 months he's gone from being like nearly 100 kilos, never thrown a punch in his life, and then he sort of come join the team, got his weight down to into like the 70 kilos sort of mark, and he won his first K1 fight, did amazingly. Won his first MMA fight against a tough opponent, and now he's fighting another dangerous opponent, and doesn't turn fights down. Takes whoever sort of we suggest to him, and he's just a perfect sort of student you want. And then we've got a couple of new guys. We've got a young lad Ross Wing, and very exciting guy. Really, his striking's pretty sort of high level. We're developing his ground game. He's one of them as well. He wants to be like Connor, stand up, knock him out. But he's learning. I mean, he's happy to learn. Obviously, put the work into the ground game, which he's doing now. So that was quite hard. Obviously, trying to make people realise like you've got to train every area because it's MMA at the end of the day. If it's if you want to box and you want to Thai box, go and have a Thai boxing fight, or go and have a boxing fight. This is MMA, so sort of respect all the martial arts and put the work into all the areas you need to, as well as your strength and conditioning and your gym work as well. So, and I think the boys, obviously the first few weeks of camp, obviously a bit of a nightmare. Everyone wants to do what they want to do, but they've all sort of stuck to the plan, and I'm happy with them all. So, look forward to an exciting fight.
So, jumping from the Justin the coach role to Justin the fighter role,
Yeah.
let's shift gears here a little bit. I want to ask you about Andy Manzolo. I want to ask you about your fight with him, and I
Yeah.
want to ask you kind of where the lay of the land is. Give us your thoughts on your previous fight to him and where things stand moving forward into potentially the talk of the locker room is the
Fight.
event in May and
Yeah.
champ kind of situation, right?
Yeah. Well, because obviously I retired just after the Christian fight, and I was pretty depressed after the Christian fight because I actually, funny enough, I watched the fight back Friday night this weekend. I watched the Christian fight, then the Manzolo fight, and I haven't actually watched the Manzolo fight since I fought him. And so watching the both fights back almost remind myself what I used to be like and how I used to fight, and then watching the Christian fight as well just to see where I went wrong and how the fight went because obviously we lost in the first round. But watching it back, I feel better now. Watched it back because it didn't go as sort of badly as I thought it did. But obviously the prep for that wasn't ideal. The can didn't go great, and then obviously the opponent changed from a wrestler to obviously Christian, who's I think Cage Warriors are now saying that he's the most dangerous striker they've got in his division. So that wasn't ideal, but and obviously I had the choice between Christian or Duncan. I went with Christian because he'd beaten Curry twice already. So we thought it's the more dangerous fight, but the reward from it could be bigger. Like there could be a title fight looming a lot quicker. Exactly. So, but obviously we lost the fight, and then after the fight, I sort of like I weighed a few things up, like new baby. Obviously, I just got married. I've got the gorilla team, which I'm trying to grow, and I've got obviously a couple of other kids as well, which I'm trying to train, obviously, and obviously just be a dad. So trying to fight at that level was just, and I don't want to sort of just make up the numbers. I want to get in there and compete. So I sort of made the decision just to call it a day and work on the team. And then obviously I found the first like month after the fight quite. I mean, I sort of struggling to sleep and sort of I'd be drinking in the week. Like I had nothing else to do. Like, I'd be training. Then I've got no sort of goal to sort of aim for, and I don't really deal well with that. And then I'd be training the lads, and I'd be sort of getting a bit sort of annoyed that some of them weren't putting their weight or doing certain stuff in training sessions. That I think, come on, I mean, you should appreciate what you're doing and the time and effort I'm trying to put into you here. And like, if that was me, I'd be working hard and I'd respect my coaches and I'd try and do that. And it's not all of them, and it was only minor things, but I think in my head I'd make it bigger than it actually was. Because obviously I couldn't fight, so I retired. Then I was chatting to Jordan about it because Jordan's obviously been in the game a long time. And I've got a lot of respect for him, and there's nothing he sort of hasn't done or hasn't seen. So I sort of spoke to him about it, and then we chatted about possibly the Manzolo fight. Like if I was going to have a fight in Bournemouth as like maybe a last fight or a comeback fight, I'd like to sort of correct that loss with Manzolo because it was a tough fight. And when I fought him like 4 or 5 years ago, like I was a white belt, and I sort of like a lot of my fight. How I fought was a lot of just aggression and power, and when I watched it back, I was like, Jesus Christ, it was just aggression and power, and I made a few mistakes that I don't think I make now, and I don't think he'd sort of hand them because I know I'm a lot better as a martial artist now, and I'm a lot more calmer, and I think about what I'm doing, and my skill sets have improved. And I think Manzo will probably look at the fact I've obviously lost to Christian. I'm coming off a loss. Maybe I'm not as good as I used to be, but I think I'm better. Christian was such a high level striker. I just got caught with that knee. So obviously we know obviously why we lost, but I think from like Manzolo's point of view, he'll look at it and be like, he lost to Christian, Justin's on the decline. Maybe a good fight for him to take as well. Because I've got massive respect for Andy. Like he's a good friend of mine, and I go down and train with him obviously occasionally, and we've got huge respect for each other. So it's not like a fight where I'm trying to hurt him, or obviously I'm trying to hurt him, but it's not a fight where I'm any animosity. It's just about respect and more like a martial arts side of things. And he's got a win over me, and I'd like to correct that before obviously I sort of call it a day. And obviously where I've got the middleweight, super middleweight belt, and he's got the middleweight belt, I think it works out like quite a nice show in Bournemouth. 2 champions coming at each other. Obviously one's got a win over him, and we've been on Bellator both. We fought some similar guys, so I just think it'd be a good fight, obviously for the fans and obviously for Jordan's show, and just be a nice one for me as well. And I like challenging myself. And I mean, Manzolo is one of the best around. And I only really want to fight the best. I'm not one of these that wants to just pick and choose who I'm fighting. Do you know what I mean? Everyone wants to like sort of pad their record a little bit, which is fine. Do you know what I mean? That's how you build records now. You get onto these big shows, but like I'm coming towards the end of my career now. I want to have sort of memories, not just dreams, if you know what I mean. Like it's that sort of old saying. I want to challenge myself, and if I lose, I lose. Do you know what I mean? The average Joe on the street don't really understand the levels to this and who we're going up against. I mean, Manzolo's a black belt. He's winning black belt tournaments like every other weekend. So I know the challenge I'm facing, and he knows what he's facing with me as well, like how I'm going to come in. But I don't think he realises just the levels I've sort of gone up as well in my game. So I'm quite looking forward to that. And just get back in there having a fight and represent a little bit. Because it's good coaching the boys, but I want them to see that what I'm trying to preach is what I practice as well. So it's trying to that as well with it.
So I've got a piece of paper right here
Sorry.
from Jordan and Natalie right in front of me, and I can give you guys an exclusive. They're looking at May. You will be taking on Andy Manzolo. We're going to end it with this. I want your prediction for the fight. We talked about what was maybe not up to your expectations in the last matchup. What is going to be different this time around? Give us a detailed breakdown.
I think with the first fight, obviously I went in there like I do, coming strong and aggressive, sort of took the fight to him. I was picking him up, throwing him around a bit. Barry, he got me in about 3 or 4 submissions in that first round, and obviously I think my power and strength got me out of most of those because there wasn't much technique used to get out of them. It was more just power. But this time I'm a lot more sort of, my technique's come a long way. I'm a purple belt now. And so my jiu-jitsu's come a long way, and obviously my wrestling as well. So I think it's going to be a similar first round. I mean, there'll be some dangerous situations, I'm sure. He'll get me in a few submissions, but I'm going to look to like sort of just that first round be very, very aggressive, which, so I can literally, I haven't got a game plan for him where some of the big fighters on like the big shows I've had a game plan for. With Andy, I know how I want to fight. Like I've gone down and sparred him like plenty of times. I sort of know how I need to be for this fight. And that second round, not play jiu-jitsu, not get involved in that sort of game. Look to just use my wrestling and aggression, and look to like keep it standing for a while as well. So I'm thinking middle of round 2, I think first round will be a bit of a back and forth as we sort of try and sort of stamp our sort of like our game on the fight. And then second round, I think he's going to start getting tired from how aggressive I'm going to be. And then that second round, sort of midway through, I think I'm going to get top position, look for some ground and pound, and maybe possibly take us back and look to submit. It'd be nice to submit Andy, obviously being a black belt and being how good he is. But I think it'll probably be ground and pound finish, to be honest. So
I love it. Thank you so much, Justin.
No worries.
You know what? We're looking forward to having you as a coach on this next show, and we look forward to having you as a fighter, potentially middleweight and super middleweight title on the line, Supreme Championships this weekend, and of course, forthcoming in May. We'll keep in touch with you, man. Thank you so much for joining us today, yeah?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, thank you. All right, cheers for the chat. All right. I'll see you soon.
See you, Justin.